Well, thank you very much. And as I've traveled throughout the island and also throughout British Columbia, I've always been asked the question about the high rates of ICBC and why are the rates so high. And I have a question to Andrew that would he continue to support taking dividends from ICBC to the government while increasing the rates for BC drivers?
Happy to answer that question. Let's get it straight. 44 years ago, a funny decision was made by the NDP to create ICBC. They had a brilliant scheme. Insurance companies make profits, so we'll take it over, and on behalf of government, we'll keep the profits. Those were called dividends. There haven't been any dividends for a few years because ICBC loses money. So where do you go with ICBC from here forward? You know, I spent 25 years as an insurance defense lawyer. There are big structural problems with how we do auto insurance in this province. We heard Todd on the radio this morning, or at least quoted on the radio, as saying that he would look into privatizing ICBC. Well, guess what, folks? ICBC isn't worth anything. There's no value to selling it because the regulatory regime that was set up around ICBC makes it very difficult for others to come in. So it's going to take a big overhaul of insurance regulation in BC to make it possible for us to get the lower rates we deserve.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. You're using a challenge card? All right. Todd Stone.
Well, thanks, Jazz. So I just want to set the record straight. Andrew mentioned a comment about a story on the radio this morning. This is a great example of the media twisting your words and taking them out of context. What I said in response to a question about what more could be done to suppress rates at ICBC was that all creative solutions should be considered. Everything should be on the table. And I think that's what drivers in this province expect. And, you know, we put a lot of pressure on ICBC rates and through all kinds of initiatives at it. There is more that needs to be done. It was all detailed in an independent third-party report that I commissioned just before the last election. It was sitting on the NDP's desk, David Eby's desk, and he has chosen not to enact anything in there. Instead, the very first action of the NDP was to raise rates by 8%. We've got to do better for the drivers of British Columbia, and that means to continue to throw everything we can to keep rates down and as affordable as possible.
I see Diane Watts is using her challenge card. Diane?
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate that answer that the former transportation minister relayed. But being the transportation minister and overseeing ICBC and seeing the rates increase year after year, why didn't you do something when you were the Minister of Transportation and bring those rates down?
Diane, we actually did a lot. We transferred $1.5 billion from the optional side of the business to the basic side of the business. We brought in a new windshield repair program. We reduced management by 500 positions. We reduced executive compensation by 50%. We implemented a new IT system, which is saving $90 million per year. We also implemented new fraud analytics tools, which will save $44 million per year in the years ahead. There is more to do, though. Crashes are up 23% year over year. Injury bodily claims costs are up 16%. The headwinds at ICBC are significant. And that's why we commissioned this independent third-party review before the last election, so that we had the plan with a range of options moving forward. Now, what I would do, we need more red light cameras at intersections across British Columbia. We need to also invest more in road safety programs more generally. And yes, we do need to look at product reform.
We have to pay our own way, folks. And so my question is to Todd. We had ICBC in your ministry for 4 long years, and now we're finding out that it's about $1 billion in the hole. It's basically insolvent, and there's no way out that I can see, and this happened on your watch. Can you explain to us how we ended up in such a bad spot with ICBC deficits?
Well, thanks, Andrew. I would remind you that you were sitting at the cabinet table with me for the last 4.5 years as we discussed ICBC many times. So none of this should come as a surprise. But look, ICBC has very significant headwinds coming at it, and it has for a number of years. I said earlier, crashes are up 23%. No one talks about that. Injury claims costs are up 16%. Vehicle damage costs are up 15%. We, through all kinds of initiatives, endorsed in part by Andrew Wilkinson over the last 4 years. The IT program I talked about that saves $90 million a year, more fraud tools. We all supported the tougher penalties on distracted driving. On and on and on the list goes. But the challenges remain, and they are structural. And that's why we did the hard work with this independent review, to provide a roadmap moving forward with a series of solutions that would be ready for a new government to implement. It's time for the government to get on with implementing those solutions to fix ICBC for the long term.